Joining us today on Misrepresented, my special guest, the badass, aggressive attorney, activist, former prosecutor, former felon, and someone who knows all about being wrongfully accused.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brooke. So good to be with you today.
So good to have you. Thank you for joining me. We have a lot to talk about. I could sit here with you for hours, but since we have limited time, I guess I'll just try to, get the best of the best topics out. So, you are, as I mentioned, an amazing, aggressive, badass, knowledgeable attorney, and you used to be a former prosecutor, correct?
I was,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about your position as a prosecutor, what you experienced and what made you decide to transition more into defense instead of being a prosecutor.
Okay, yeah, big topic, but let's go back a little bit. So I went back to law school late in life. I was 38 years old, and I just decided I'm just going to go to law school. My family had a very successful restaurant business in Nashville. I just felt like there were too many cooks in the stew. I wanted to go do something else. I thought with law, I'm like, oh, I'm smart. I like people. I like to advocate for people. It'll be a good job, right?
Right.
I just thought it would be a good job, like be a hairdresser, be a lawyer.
Yeah.
It's like it was just a category for me.
Yeah.
And so I found the way to do it. And by the time I got out of law school, I was 42 years old, and I got the opportunity to go to the district attorney's office in Davidson County. And so I took it. I jumped right in. It was a lousy paying job, by the way, but I knew I needed experience because I was already in my 40s. I'd gone to Nashville School of Law. I didn't want a huge school debt, so I actually could have gone to Vanderbilt with the kinds of scores I had, but I just went to Nashville School of Law. So I got out and became a prosecutor and picked up primarily on domestic violence. I say way back then, domestic violence was kind of a boutique thing to do. Right. We had our own little detective unit. We had our own dockets. I mean, it was kind of a brand new thing.
Right.
So we worked in domestic violence. Work with tons of people. I did criminal trials. I was able to do a jury trial. My first jury trial was a baby murder, so I got tons of experience there.
Wow.
But I found out I didn't like the taste of it very well.
Okay. When you say you didn't like the taste of it very well, how did it taste? Walk me through that.
Well, so, oh gosh, I dealt with so many people, and you and I kind of talked about this a little bit before. My background was my upbringing was rather normal.
Right.
There were a few things that were kind of traumatic in my life, but I mean, it was rather normal. We didn't have any criminals and felons in our background. Yeah. And so when I started working I started looking at the criminal aspect and the people that were coming through that process, I didn't like the way they were treated. I didn't like the way the judges handled it. And and it was very stressful. And I couldn't use any discretion. Yeah. And I told you that sometimes a case would come in and it would really be a terrible case, just like not really a good case. And I would make that decision as a prosecutor not to go forward with it. And as sure as I did that, and I told the judge we were not prosecuting the case, the victim would call my boss and say, she wouldn't prosecute my case. And then I'd be called in. I'd have to write a memo, right? And I was like, heck with this, right? I'll just prosecute them all. I don't care. It's up to the judge. It's not up to me. So therefore, you get prosecutors with the attitude that if they're going to throw it at us, we're just going to throw it out there, right?
Right.
And not use any discretion because they kind of take that away from you.
Yeah.
And so I didn't like that. And then I really struggled with it. I mean, having a steady, secure government job to going out on your own and being being any kind of attorney
right.
was really kind of frightening. But I just decided I was going to take that leap and do it.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's amazing that you did and got out of that pressure cooker. And a lot of people, I talk to like ADAs all the time, and we talk about like them prosecuting cases, just like what you're speaking on, especially with domestics. And I've told you this before. I'm on out a lot of people on domestics that aren't guilty. I would say 80% of the people that we bond out are either their charges get dismissed, the quote unquote victim does not go to court, they don't want to prosecute, or they just are found not guilty in a court of law if it goes all the way to trial. And I think that people have this misconception like that anytime someone gets arrested for domestic assault, they're automatically guilty.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? They have this preconceived notion, and people have no earthly idea that these quote unquote victims play the system. Like I've said this before, if they catch their boyfriend over Day-Day's house, like they are pissed off and they're going to jail. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They're going to jail. And so I have had people that play the system, get these individuals locked up, and we bond them out, and we know that, based on the facts of what's going on with their situation, clearly they're innocent and they don't, get prosecuted in the end. And when I say prosecuted, meaning I should say they don't get found guilty.
Right,
They're not
right.
convicted in the end. And I feel like that just in like your situation, the victims call my company and they're like, you bonded them out. He did this, he did that. And I'm like, I'm not the judge. I'm just providing them a service.
Oh,
I mean, not even a
right.
service, but like their constitutional right to make bail, And it's because people like that play the system, and that's why like there are real DV victims out there. You know what I mean? It really happens to people, and they're not so much taken seriously because you have so many people like this playing the system.
Right.
So,
Right. And well, back in 1994 when I started so many decades ago, but the domestic violence prosecution was novel and unique, right? And so before that, people would call the cops would come to the house, people would calm down by then, right? 45 minutes later, and the cop would leave. Right. And then when they passed the new domestic violence law, if the cop comes to the door, somebody's going to jail.
Yeah.
And when they did that, they changed the whole dynamic.
Right.
Because they had to take somebody to jail.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then they passed another law that basically said the cops could even swear the warrants out. They didn't even need the victim. Because we went through a period of time where even though somebody had to go to jail, the victim would still have to sign the warrant and swear out the misdemeanor warrant.
Right.
And then they started letting cops do that too.
That is crazy. And that's another thing is like, people will come into my office and I'm like, so what happened, And they're like, well, the freaking nosy neighbor called the police and said that we were fighting. We might have been speaking loudly, but we weren't out there, you know what I mean? Like WWE in the ring or anything.
Right.
And so, like you say, the police go out to the scene. Someone has to go to jail, whether there's really been any domestic violence or not. Someone is going to jail.
Right.
And so that is something that we really need to change. What are your thoughts on that? Like, how could we change that?
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to add a little touch to that as well. And now, if the cops come on a domestic violence, they have to call DCS.
Yes.
They have to call DCS and bring
yeah.
DCS out there. So as far as changing, well, I'm very politically active, as you know, and I'm also very active in watching legislation and trying to help change legislation. And I started being politically active in 2008 when by then I was in private practice. I was working with a lot of family law, a lot of family cases, and I just didn't like the way judges were handling people. Sometimes they were just rude, or they would shut people down. They showed biases to attorneys. I mean, it just didn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And so I started going to the General Assembly and talking to them all by myself. I just go down there, walk in a room, ask to talk to them. And it's so funny. They'd always go like, who are you with? And I'm like, I'm with myself. But I talked about the very first thing I asked for was cameras in the courtrooms.
Yeah.
And let people get a copy of the camera in the courtroom because there would be so much that would be exposed if you had that.
Sure. For sure.
And so, I started being politically active now, and we'll talk about how aggressive they got against me and retaliated against me. But I really started pushing the system.
Yeah.
And as soon as I started pushing the system, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, they immediately started retaliation against me. And honestly, as we unfold this big story for everybody, I just want everybody to know I really am the poster child for don't rock the boat in Tennessee.
Yeah. People ask me, I've told you this before, all the time. They're like, whew, Brooke, they want you to sit your little ass down and shut the hell up. And they might shut you down out here if you don't shut your mouth, And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't threaten me with a good time. Shut me down. Listen, if they shut me down tomorrow, I would get all of my money out. I would go invest in something totally different and make 3 times more money with less headache, be on complete financial cruise control, and I would have so much more time.
Well, and so much more fun.
And so much more fun to keep my mouth running about what's really going on, the hell behind the scenes that people don't know about, to really educate them, to really drop knowledge on people that still live in this culturally conditioned world that, like, I grew up in, not thinking that all of these things really happen behind the scenes.
Oh, for sure.
And I would have so much more time to pass laws and get people to vote and, educate them on what to do and give them voters guides and all of those things. So yes, please shut me down today so I can walk in my purpose tomorrow.
And that's, what they did to me is they shut me down with fake crimes, and they, gave me a lot of free time. But, they shut down. I had 20, 30, 40 clients that I had cases pending. I had employees. I had an office. I mean, it was devastating the way they did it.
That is absolutely horrendous. And I definitely want to talk about that, because I feel like that is a huge catalyst of why you're walking in your purpose now.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that you, as we talked about in the beginning, you really know what it's like to be wrongfully convicted, because they did it to you.
Yeah, they did it to me. Yeah.
When you started raising awareness and pushing the envelope and wanting to cultivate change, and when I say cultivate change, meaning just like simple things like cameras in courtrooms. Still, when did you ask about that? Was that in 2008?
2008.
Wow. So
2008.
Here
they said
we
it was
are,
too expensive.
in 2025, and we still do not have cameras in some of these courtrooms.
I know. But, we actually have security cameras everywhere.
We do. Yeah.
And so what happened in Davidson County is some attorneys started going and getting the security camera when I was a defense attorney, because he had held a hearing on a motion without me in the courtroom. And I went and I got the video. I put it on YouTube. I made him crazy mad. This is way back. This is 10, 15 years ago. The next time I was in court, he called us all into the back, me and the DA, and he says, well, I understand there's a video on YouTube. And he goes, I don't know if that's unethical or not. And I'm like, it's a public courtroom. It's a security camera video.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I didn't say any of that. I'm just like, yeah.
Wow.
But that is, and then there were a few people who would have a run-in with a domestic judge. One attorney went and got the video where this judge had just screamed at her in the courtroom, and it went on the news,
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, we need cameras in the courtroom.
do.
And just think about it. How many YouTube videos and YouTube channels now are live streaming court cases in the courtroom? I mean, what is wrong with Tennessee? We're supposed to be transparent.
We are. Yeah. There's a lot of lack of transparency, and that's unfortunate. When you talk about that they say that they just couldn't afford it, what do you think about that?
Well, it's ridiculous. Like I said, now they have security cameras.
Right.
All they have to do on those security cameras is, put I don't know if they have audio with them or not. I would assume most of them do these days, right? And it is now so easy technology-wise to just have a clerk who's doing nothing else sitting there, right?
Yeah.
To just timestamp everything that's going on. So the Tennessee General Assembly actually, the way that what they do is when they're having hearings, they live stream them.
Right.
Okay. And then they are indexed, and you can go on their website and you can look up a particular bill.
I do it all the time. Yeah.
And you can go to the video where that bill is,
Right.
and they're all bookmarked.
Right.
So the fact that you can't videotape courtrooms
Right.
is just like crazy.
It is crazy. It is really crazy. And, when we talk about budget and what they have to spend and can't spend, I mean, how much do you think that new Titan Stadium that they're
exactly.
spending is?
How much do we pay Core Civic?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like that's a whole nother topic is Core Civic. Yeah. I mean, it's disgusting to think about the money that they spend on, on those types of things, but they don't have money to, put cameras in courthouses or enough security at schools.
Well, here's the
and things
thing.
of that nature.
Here's kind of this underlying theme I want you to think about for a moment and then just ponder on it. Is Tennessee loves to monetize people.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with criminality and with criminal defense and criminal courts, they love to monetize people. They want a probation fee. They want an ankle monitor fee.
Yeah.
They want a breathalyzer fee. I mean, and of course with kids, which is what I do so much now with child welfare, they want to foster care. They can monetize the kids in foster care. They can give them counseling. They can put them on medication. They can order the parents to do parenting classes. Tennessee just loves to monetize people.
Wow. That's just, and you know what? Like, so many people are not talking about what's really going on behind the scenes with like DCS and these children getting taken and how, that's such a money train too. And I've had people who used to work for DCS tell me a lot of horror stories, and I'm like, why are these things not getting investigated? Like even like children being trapped. Have you heard that?
Oh, yes, definitely. Well, and the way DCS, I mean, at least in criminal court, it's a public record. Like if I wanted to go to Sumner County and pull somebody's criminal file, I can look at it.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with these kids. You can't do it with juvenile court. You can't do an open records request on the records that DCS have. They are now hiding undocumented kids in the foster care system. And if you read, I've read one of these court orders, and if you read that court order, this little girl tells the story of how she was trapped. And the juvenile court knows it, and they admit that they're doing it so that she can get a visa. So they're hiding her from the federal authority. They're hiding the crime. She is a federal witness. She talks about how she was brought to the U.S. by a sponsor and taken to Miami at 13. And then the reason she got mad at her sponsor is because she was working and her sponsor wouldn't give her all the money she's earning. How do you think she was working at 13, right?
Oh my gosh.
So they're now, but they're all secret records. It's all secret records. And so only through whistleblowers and people coming out and telling the truth. But even these parents don't even know what happened to their kids once they go in foster care.
That is so sad.
But it's the same thing with the prisons, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the family's doesn't even know what's going on a day-to-day basis with their loved one in the prison facilities.
Yeah.
Same thing.
It is.
Monetize the people, cover it up, hide it, and just brutalize them.
Yeah. It's awful. Like, no, well, Connie, no wonder they wanted to shut you the hell up. I mean, that's awful, but no wonder. Like, you know too much. Talk to me a little bit about how did they try to shut you up? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so so people really, I do want them to sort of understand the heart of the story. And the heart of the story is I had a mom who, with a disability, she had MS, and she was a single mom. She had 3 kids, deadbeat dads, terrible dads, and she was raising these 3 kids by herself. Fortunately, she had a wonderful family that was helping her and supporting her. And she met me through my social media way back 10 years ago now, in 2015, she found me, and she called me in 2015. DCS was involved. We beat the socks off of them, shut the case down. They went away. 2 years later, 2017, same thing happened, because every year she was out in DeKalb County. Every year they were coming and harassing her or going to talk to her kids at school, or because they knew she was vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And so in 2017, I shut them down. So in 2018, they come to her house again, and one of her teenagers was unruly, selling drugs in the driveway, causing a bunch of problems. So they come to her house, and she told them one August afternoon, she said, I have an attorney. You need to call my attorney. The girl runs out and says, I don't have to call your attorney. I'll just go get a warrant. And so
This was a DCS worker?
yes, a DCS worker. And so my client calls me. The next morning, I start calling this DCS worker. I call and leave a message. This is Connie Reguli. I represent Wendy. She has an attorney. Please don't go to her house. Just call me. We'll work with you. We'll talk to you. No return phone call. Didn't get a return phone call, so I call her supervisor. I call the regional office. I call the central office. I mean, I called everybody, left a message. Nobody would talk to me. So that was on Thursday and Friday. I even called the detective and actually talked to the detective in Smithville. And I said, what do you need to talk to me about, Wendy? And he's like, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm like, well, I'm her attorney. And I said, look, well, you'll have to come out here. He knew I was 2 hours away, right? I said, well, look, I'm 2 hours away. He goes, I'm not going to be here in 2 hours. I'm like, okay, well, how about Monday? He said, okay. He says, I don't know. We'll have to see. And so I asked him this question. I said, is there anything emergent that I need to go over with my client? Okay? I just wanted to know. Is there any emergency I need to deal with? He said, no. So I didn't know at the time, but after I got the records, I found out 15 minutes later he took a warrant out on her. And didn't have the courtesy to call me back. I mean, I would have taken her to the police station, right?
Yeah.
So then on Monday, the DCS worker, I call her again, and instead of calling me back, she drives all the way up to another county, gets another judge to sign an ex parte order, which means I call it the behind your back order, gets an ex parte order from Judge Collins to take her disabled 12-year-old out of her home. And I called and called and called and called them. And this 12-year-old had never been separated from her mom. And so I was pissed. And so I didn't know at the time, though. That's Monday. I didn't know. Tuesday, I called the clerk's office. Do you have anything there? Or what do I need to know? She's like, yeah. And I fax it to me. She's like, we can't fax it. And I said, okay, well, I have to drive out there. So that'll be tomorrow. So now we're going into Wednesday. And so I drive all the way out there just to go in the clerk's office, find this ex parte order by out-of-county judge, and then I contact Wendy. I was so mad. I was fuming mad. And I says, you know what? Just come to Brentwood. I'm going to start calling the judge's office. We'll work it out, right? I did not want her separated, that child separated. The next morning, police surround my house in Brentwood, and they'd tracked my phone. They'd
legally tracked your phone?
Yes, pinged my phone.
Oh,
they had
my
all this tracking data on my phone, which, by the way, was no big secret anyway. I'd already told them I was her attorney.
Yeah.
They knew where I'd lived. I'd lived in the same house for 20 years. Like, it was no secret. And so they picked up the child, took her all the way to Jackson, Tennessee, 200 miles from her home, and then picked Wendy up because her son said a domestic. Her son said she hit him, and so nothing. I don't get arrested though, and that's the only thing she has to deal with. I fight DCS's socks off for the next 10 months. They move that 12-year-old to 6 homes in 10 months.
Oh my God!
She's in 4 different schools, 6 homes. I beat their socks off. They dump the kids off at home. They're like, oh well, we're dropping the case. Literally just dropped them off. No follow-up counseling, no nothing. Must not have been too bad. And then a month later, I get a phone call, and it's Detective Lori Russ with the Brentwood Police Department. Says, Connie, we have a warrant for you and your client's arrest. I'm like,
what?
I'm like, I said, really, totally cool. And I'm like, okay. I said, look, you don't have to come and arrest me. I'll call Wendy. I'll have her come into town. And I said to her, what's my bond? Because I wanted to be ready, right?
Yeah.
She goes, there is no bond. Okay, so now when somebody says to you, there is no bond, what
Right.
does that mean to you? It means like you're going to be held, right?
Yeah.
Until they she goes, there is no bond. She did that on purpose. She was trying to annoy me.
Right.
And I'm like, no bond. And she's like, I'm like, I'm not a criminal.
Right.
And I've lived in the same house for 20 years. I work in this community. And she goes, it's ROR, which, of course, released on your own.
On your own recognizance.
Right.
She was
So-
just mind gaming.
Yeah,
you,
she was
basically.
totally mind gaming me. And so I got my client. We actually had the news there. She made an ass of herself. She came out. She started to grab my arm. And I'm like, don't touch me. And so, but then we go in, Wendy and I go in, we get transported in cuffs. We're chained to the wall, the whole deal, the whole fingerprinting, booking, photographs, whatever. And they didn't even have the indictment. I'm like, I need to see the indictment. And they're like, we don't have it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have it? And they're like, so I call, after I get booked out, the press was there too, we had them come.
Yeah.
I call the clerk's office. I'm like, where's the indictment? And they're like, we don't have the indictment. It's still at the sheriff's office. Total just playing around with me, right? And so a few days later, I finally get my hands on the indictment. And I call Wendy up and I laugh. And I said, Wendy, this is no problem. I said, they didn't write the indictment right. They didn't even quote the law correctly. I'm going to get you with the PD, public defender. I'm going to go hire an attorney I work with, but I'm going to draft a motion to dismiss this because this indictment doesn't even have the law stated correctly.
Right.
Doesn't even have the elements of the crime. I says, don't worry, it'll get dismissed. So I draft out this perfect memorandum, and the public defender takes it in front of Judge Woodruff, and they have this big hearing. And Judge Woodruff actually changed the law. And I say that to people, and they always say, judges don't change the law. And I'm like, he changed the law and removed an element of the crime, and so that they could proceed with us.
Wow.
And so they had this in July of 2021. They did this big jury trial with Wendy. And they had, you would have thought we'd robbed a freaking Wells Fargo. They had this guy, the police department, the forensic specialist who had tracked my phone. Like he came in with all this data and all these data points of me traveling down I-40. It's like, she was at my house, you guys.
What in the world? What did they actually charge you with?
So they charged her with custodial interference, and they charged me, her attorney, with accessory after the fact. Now, in the law, accessory after the fact, it says right in there, legal representation is
Right.
not a crime. Is not a crime.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, a fake felony, pretty much.
Yes, totally fake. And not only, they charged me with 2 accessory after the fact. Accessory after the fact for harboring, and accessory after the fact for aiding and abetting, I think.
That is wild. So you were charged with 2 fake felonies.
Yes, and a misdemeanor. They also charged me with facilitation of a felony.
Oh my gosh. What? That is crazy. So what ended up happening?
So we have her trial. She gets convicted. Okay, so we knew it though, because the poor jury didn't even get the right instructions, right? The jury had the wrong instructions. And so
By design? You think that was by design?
Oh, well, the judge did it. The judge wrote the jury instruction. The judge wrote the jury instruction. And so then we have Wendy set for a sentencing hearing, and she's so nervous. Her daughter, who's now home, we're a couple years into it, has now had a baby. And Wendy has MS, of course, and she has flares, with MS where you just can't even move. And she was scared to death to even spend one day in jail.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they had her sentencing hearing set, and I went because I was going to testify on her behalf. And we go in, and the DA offered her 2 years probation if she would testify against me, and if she would bring her daughter, who's now 16, I guess, bring her daughter in to be prepped for testifying against me.
Wow.
So she took it, and I was really upset when she first did it, but I knew they would lock her up.
Yeah.
They were going to lock her
For
up.
sure. And that's how they play people. Like, that's how they
Absolutely.
get people to falsely testify against someone.
Absolutely.
By threatening them,
Absolutely. So they coached Wendy. They coached her.
disgusting.
I had a trial then set for April of 2022. So, which actually it was set for 2021, and then they found out that I might run for judge. So they decided to move my criminal trial to right in the middle of the election. So they actually intentionally set my jury trial right in the middle of the election. I pulled a petition. I ran for judge. I got people to sign. I got people working with me. I mean, I was just like, I told them,
Yeah.
And so and whoever hears of anything in the press about somebody being convicted of custodial interference. Have you ever?
I've never heard of anything like that. That's ridiculous.
They had it all over the press. They had the Tennessean there. They had the Williamson Herald there, all because of the election, of course. But they also wanted to make a spectacle out of me.
For sure. Yeah.
They wanted
to discredit you. That's what they wanted to do.
Yes.
That's what they do.
And so
It's disgusting.
then they find me. We have this 3-day trial. They find me guilty, of course. My attorney even said, he's like, Connie, the fix is in.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know. So they have a jury trial. They find me guilty on Wednesday afternoon or something. Wednesday afternoon. Friday morning, I get a fax from the Tennessee Supreme Court that says your license is automatically suspended because I have a fake felony. I mean, literally, I'm like, I practiced law for 28 years, and you're going to send me a fax that says. I tried to get a hearing. They denied a hearing. So then my sentencing hearing came up, and it came up. Now, remember, and anybody who's been through the criminal system kind of knows this, but typically when you go through a jury trial and you're convicted, most of the time they revoke your bond.
Yeah.
Right? And you go right to jail. Right? And so this judge did not revoke my bond after the guilty verdict. Okay?
Right.
So then we set a sentencing hearing. Oh, by the way, the really nasty judge, Judge Woodruff, and I'm just going to say his name because some of your listeners are going to deal with him at some point.
Right.
He's horrible and he's corrupt, and he made up a fake crime against me. He made up another fake crime, too, that I'll tell you about in a second. But he did this on purpose. He did it to discredit me and silence me. He recused himself from my case a month before the trial. Month and a half or so. So they put another judge on it who still had the opportunity to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But he didn't. But
Disgusting.
he did not revoke my bond. Well, it's ROR bond.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he didn't revoke my bond. And so then we have a sentencing hearing in June. And so we go to the sentencing hearing. I had like 12 people come and testify for me. Wow. Clients, my kids, my adult kids, some very close friends I'd worked with all came and testified. And one of my clients was so upset. She cried. She's like, I cannot believe. He goes, with all she's done for me and all she's done for families, I cannot believe you're even thinking about incarcerating her. And so after that, the judge sentenced me to 2 years probation and 30 days in jail. Now, again, second opportunity to take me straight to jail, right? Because of the sentencing hearing, even if you're out on bond. Second one, sentencing hearing, okay, you're done, right? And so I looked at my attorney and I'm like, just ask him. And he's like, can she just stay on bond? He was like, oh yeah, she could stay on bond. Well, I'm going to tell you something that I knew though, and I want people to take this very serious, and I'm sure you will. They were going to kill me in jail.
You and I have had that conversation before.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even the DA only asked for 48 hours in jail, and the judge gave me 30 days.
Wow.
I said, and I knew, I cannot eat for 48 hours, right? I can curl up in a little ball under a blanket for 48 hours and just not move.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
But 30 days, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then the next thing that happened is the Williamson County attorney came to court and filed a motion that while I was incarcerated, that they shouldn't be required to jail me in Williamson County because I was too dangerous.
Oh my gosh.
that they should be able to ship me out to another county.
Dangerous to what? Upset the establishment? Like, what are you a danger to?
Here's what she told the court.
God.
She's like, she accuses our sheriff of jailing children and giving them psychotropic medication. And I'm thinking, I don't remember saying that, but that sounds like something I would say.
Right. I didn't say that, but if the shoe fits, lace that bitch up and wear it.
Exactly.
God.
So, but she brought in no evidence. And again, your people who go through this process understand this. She brought in not one stitch of evidence. She didn't bring the sheriff in to testify. She didn't bring a single social media post, nothing. She just stood up and said it. She's like, oh, yeah, she's dangerous. And so then they ordered, okay, yeah, you can ship her someplace else. But then my attorney is also like, well, can she stay on bond? And the judge is like, oh, yeah, she can stay on bond. I know she's going to appeal this. So it was all for show. It was all for show. But had they been able to get me in jail, they would have killed me. I have no
for sure.
doubt.
100%. Yeah. I believe that 100%.
And that's why they wanted me in another county, so I wouldn't be close to my family.
Yeah.
Right. And so, so they kept me. So by then, my client's appeal was in process. So she was about a year ahead of me because she was July 21. I was April 22 by the time I got to trial. So her appeal had started. I wrote a whole brief for the public defender. I wrote all this legal memorandum out for him. And he actually did a really good job. He took most of it and changed a few things. And then, and here's what's really weird, though. I wrote what's called an amicus brief. I'm her co-defendant, right? So I'm a party of interest. And so I wrote an amicus brief bringing up a few legal arguments that he had left out before in his brief. Girl. So an amicus brief is like, for instance, a lot of times, like an association or some type of nonprofit will do an amicus brief, right, to support the issue, right? So I write this whole amicus brief like, hey, you left this out. Nobody objected, because you have to file a motion for a brief. Nobody objected to my brief, and the court still denied it. The court denied my appeal.
Serious.
The Court of Appeals, the Court of Criminal Appeals, denied me the right to file and I'm her freaking co-defendant, right? And so, and the way the law works, if there was no felony, then there can be no accessory. Right?
Yeah.
So I called my attorney. I represented myself in my appeal.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the brief. I went in, I did the oral argument. And one of the interesting things about it is and by the time I'm writing my brief, Wendy's case, my client's case, gets overturned. And they say the judge left out an essential element of the crime.
Which he did, yeah.
Right, okay. However, here's what I got a little irritated about. So Judge Timothy Easter is the appellate judge that wrote that opinion. And he says, he has a sentence in here that says, despite the troubling conduct of the defendant and co-defendant, there is no crime here, something like that. And when he said the troubling conduct, I was furious because it was all fake.
Right.
Yeah, so, in this whole process, I know they wanted to just emotionally shut me down too, right?
Right.
But they forgot one thing, is I'm a very smart attorney.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I hadn't done criminal law for a long time, so I had to really dig into it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'd been to the Court of Appeals 40, 50, 60 times. I'd brought civil rights cases, which really requires you to just study.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so when this happened to me, although I'd been out of criminal law for a long time, I knew it just didn't feel right. Surely you can't, prosecute somebody for a crime and you've left out an element of the crime.
No.
Like we talked about earlier, it's like being charged with stealing a car, but there's no car. Right?
Yeah.
So I really buckled down, and then like I said, this troubling conduct thing, and then when the panel came for oral argument, I will tell you something interesting is Judge Easter was actually on the panel, and when my case was called, he actually got up and left, and they sent in an alternate.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if it had something to do with that one particular comment, but I don't know what else it would be.
Yeah, for sure.
So in my case, of course, they had already, and look, this is how ornery they are. When Wendy's case was reversed, that meant there was no felony.
Right.
If there's no felony, you can't be an accessory to a felony.
Correct.
And so I was writing a brief. I was communicating with the AG's office. I sent the AG an email, and I said, look, Wendy's case has been overturned. There is no felony. Can we not just enter an agreed order to remand this for a dismissal? Right. They refused.
Oh my God.
Because they wanted to drag it out as long as they could, and it took another 10 months before I just got it reversed in March of 24.
Yeah. So we talk about, there's a lot of talk at Washington, D.C. and, all of the things right now about the Epstein files.
Yeah.
What is your knowledge and opinion on the Epstein files? What is going on?
Well, I want people to understand, I think this is one of the most important parts of it. If they think that Epstein and Epstein Island and Lolita Express is like some unique, like a novel, like outrageous thing this one person came up with out of the blue, they're living in a dream.
Yeah.
Child is rampant.
It is.
And I have a whole file of the history of things like the Boys Town in Nebraska, the Fox Island in Michigan. I mean, the use and misuse and abuse of children for the pleasure of sick, right, is American culture. It's American culture. And so you just need to put it out there. I know they probably created fake evidence by now. We know that. We know they created fake evidence against me. I'm just a nobody attorney in Tennessee, right? So I know there's fake evidence that's been created as well, which will be totally misused. But we have got to peel these layers back against who these sicko predators are.
Yeah, and that's what they are. They are disgusting, sicko predators.
And and people, and I've talked to many psychologists about this as well. People who have that type of sickness in their head are dangerous. And I want to go another step further. There are, and the Diddy parties and the Diddy activities, those types of parties go on right here in Nashville.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
Now,
well, we will talk about that. They might for real bomb my building tonight if we go in here talking about the Nashville Diddy parties. We're not going to talk about that.
But it's for real.
It is for real. It is
for real.
Yeah.
They have, and I know individuals who's gone and participated with the penthouse parties, with all the girls that they bring in, where they're passing around ecstasy, okay? They're talking about being rich and famous. I've seen it. I know people who have done it, and I know the abuse that some of those people have then perpetrated on children.
Oh, it's horrendous.
And so
horrendous.
It is horrendous. And I want people to talk about it. And I don't know, I'm thinking maybe Trump said the whole thing about stop talking about it just so we'd talk about it more.
Right.
Right? But we have got to stop it in America, and we've got to unpeel and uncover every single layer that we can find.
You're right. Absolutely. So do you believe the Epstein files really do exist?
Absolutely.
Like that's a reality. I
Absolutely.
mean, I think that's really a given. And I think that people that don't think that are living in the fucking clouds. You know what I mean? That's the reality. But I also am curious as to why they've dismissed this prosecutor, basically fired her, the one that was over the Epstein case.
Maureen Comey?
Case.
You mean Jim Comey's daughter?
Yes. Like, I have to ask, what is your opinion about that?
Well, I read a lot, and I've read things, some like the Durham report. I mean,
Yeah.
over the Trump administration, all that persecution, all the Russian collusion. I've read all of those. Okay,
Right.
I've read Cash Patel's book, Don
Yeah.
Bongino's books. I've read all of those, and I know exactly how dirty Comey was, and Clapper, and Strzok, and Page, and
Yeah.
I mean how dirty they are. They are evil people. The system is so broken and
It is.
so
And
bad.
it starts at the top. Like, people don't realize that. I'm like, it starts at the top. When I tell you it starts at the top, it starts at the top.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Disgusting. Just absolutely disgusting. I do want to just kind of touch on when we're talking about like the trafficking, being trafficked, child welfare system and all of those things. Like, you're really a big part of being an advocate for those kids. Can you just walk me through, while we close out, what are you doing now to really be an advocate for those children?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I do know now that DCS is taking undocumented kids and hiding them in the foster care system. I have evidence of that. I have recorded conversations of people talking about it. I've actually read the court orders of the undocumented kids, and they're being hidden in the system, and that is a federal crime, and Commissioner Nichols needs to go to prison for it. I'll say that out loud. So, and then I've also seen, I have people on the inside who report to me all the time the way children are treated, because once a child is removed from a parent's home, they have no idea where that child is. They don't know where that child is. They don't know what's going on a
Right.
day-to-day basis. I cannot imagine. I'd go nuts if I was a parent.
Yeah.
And people reach out to me, and I try to help them all the time about all that. So because they stripped me of my license, I can't walk in a courtroom and represent somebody, but people are always reaching out to me, and I'm always giving them some advice to help.
Yeah.
And then I continue through the Family Forward Project. We go to Washington, D.C. We continue to talk about that. Right now, we're trying to figure out a way to get it audited, because I know they're hiding kids in the system for money. Like I said, they're privatizing kids. Let me tell you, right now, children are worth up to $600 a day tax-free.
Wow.
An autistic child, if put in the DCS custody, foster parents paid $600 a day.
Wow.
$600 a day.
Wow.
And an unruly teenager who, maybe doesn't do their homework all the time, they're worth over $200 a day. So that's $6,000 tax-free, plus all your medical care, plus all these other benefits for vacations, a $20,000 debit card for medical equipment. Yeah, the money.
My
The
gosh.
money is crazy.
That is crazy. So, I have to ask you, because I've had friends that have worked in DCS, and they've tried to blackball them and silence them and discredit them and all of those things. But they've all told me pretty much the same things, and a lot of the same things that you're telling me as well. One of the biggest concerns that I have are like, what happens to all these children in the foster care system that are missing? In your opinion, do you think they're trafficked?
Oh, absolutely. Or dead. Or dead.
Oh my
God. There was a story in East Tennessee, in Knoxville. These people had a little boy was walking down the road. He's about 10, and the cops stop and pick him up. And so they go, or otherwise this would have never been discovered. They find out what home he came from. They went to that home. This couple had adopted 4 children. 2 of them were buried in the backyard.
Oh my gosh.
Now, after you adopt, you continue to get money. Okay, so you continue to get $300, $400, $500 a month per child. If they bury them in the backyard, they're not even reporting that and continuing to get that money.
Oh my
We know
God.
that. That happened in Tennessee.
That is horrible. Horrible and disgusting. Oh my God. Wow. Well, thank you so much again for joining me today. And I look forward to you joining me on many other episodes and working together with
Absolutely.
passing real legislation. So I am excited about our journey, and I'm just so grateful that we connected and crossed paths. And I want to just remind people where they can find you again. So tell me again about your platforms. Where can people find you?
Yep. So the best way is my name, and I have an unusual enough name that you can find it. Now, if you Google Connie Reguli Jail, you'll find all my criminal felony stuff.
All your fake felonies.
All my fake felonies. So Connie Reguli, Reguli, and I have a YouTube channel on Facebook. I'm posting all the time, Instagram and X sometimes. I need to work it up a little bit, but we're going to start this presentation, The Bad Bills and Dark Money Who Steal in Tennessee. So we're going to be putting up clips of that at TikTok. I put up a lot of clips on TikTok of where I'm going, what I'm doing. A lot of people are reaching out to me there. So any of those, LinkedIn even, actually I'm creating kind of a semi-professional network there.
Yeah.
So if you're a professional sort of in that area of child welfare, social work, etc., there's a lot of judicial reform stuff going on there. So please, just reach out there and connect.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
we need to have our conversations going all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful that we had this conversation, and I know that we're going to have many more conversations in the future. And I look forward to joining you on your journeys.
Thank you.
And if you have been mistreated, misrepresented, or misunderstood by the system, you can come on this platform and share your story. You do not have to be voiceless anymore.